thought I was going to see him when I first got there. I didn't see him for 5 hours.
So he didn't come out the whole time you're testing or doing your physical. Everyone's talking about
Never.
The GM never came once out to see you.
And I don't know why. I'm not going to speculate. I didn't see him one time. I even asked the girl. I was like, "Where's Eric at?" Like, I want to say, like, you know what I mean? Like, he just made the trade. Like, I didn't see him for 5 hours. So I go and do my thing. At the end, they're like, "Yeah, I'll take you up." Joe was like, "I'll take you up and you go see the head coach, whatever, just before you leave." I was like, "Hell yeah!" I was like, "That's what I want to say what's up to him." So I went back up, and I dap him up, and they could just tell like the energy was a little bit off. And the GM was standing in like the hall, like in the room next to me to the right, and that was the first time I seen him.
That sounds dysfunctional. Something doesn't sound right about that. That's Max Crosby's perspective, Doggy. How much criticism do you give the Ravens for how this whole thing played out?
More now after what I heard there. First off, I hated DeCosta's comments last week. I'm gutted by the decision. What do you mean you're gutted? You didn't lose a dog. A dog ain't run.
Exactly.
Gutted? That really bothered me. I mean, nobody wants to hear from him. I'm gutted. Secondly, they knew he had the surgery. It wasn't like they made a trade for a guy who was healthy and they found out he had a bad knee. He already had the surgery. And three, I mean, somebody reported, was it Rossini did a great job, that he was on the phone with Hendrickson when he was in there with the freaking team. So the Ravens here, the more you think about it, and I trust Crosby, who's been a great player, they are completely out of line. And that GM, he did a bad job. He traded for a guy that he knew he was hurt. He didn't even bother to hang out with him. The guy shows up and he's on the phone with somebody else, and he tells me he's gutted after the scenario. I'm down on the Ravens. Steve?
I completely agree with Doggy, and here's where, first of all, I totally agree with him about DeCosta. You're gutted, please. You didn't lose anything. Stop that nonsense. Ain't nobody falling for that. That's number one. Number two, Crosby, you knew he was injured before you made the deal. You knew what the situation was. And so to know that, and then to renege on this deal after flying him and his wife to Baltimore, I thought, and considering the way they handled it, obviously it leaves a bad taste in our mouth, both myself and Doggy. Clearly it was a situation where Trey Hendrickson had overpriced himself, and you didn't think you were going to get him. Once he had overpriced himself and didn't end up going somewhere else, and you recognized you had a shot at him, you changed course, right? You didn't reach an agreement in writing, so it's understandable, but say so. Instead, what you did was you put stuff out there leaning on the physical, thereby hampering the Raiders' ability to move Max Crosby and to get the kind of assets for him that they were scheduled to get from Baltimore, right? So you hurt the Raiders. You hurt Max Crosby's potential marketability. And why? Because you wanted Trey Hendrickson and it was a better deal for you. There had to be a better way to do business. The Baltimore Ravens didn't handle it that way. And I think that is what's Bush League about all of this. DeCosta could try to explain his way out of it until the cows come home. Nobody's buying it. We can all see exactly what transpired here. You had a chance to get Trey Hendrickson, and you wouldn't have to give up 2 first-round picks in order to do it. And that was a better option for you than Max Crosby. So you reneged on the Max Crosby deal, but you had no problem with him being thrown under the bus in a way that affect his potential marketability or that of the Raiders being able to get equitable compensation comparable to what you had promised them for Max Crosby. That is what the bottom line is, and that is not how you're supposed to do business. It's a bad look for the Baltimore Ravens and DeCosta specifically.
You guys,
No way around it.
You guys both mentioned everybody knew he had this surgery. So when you trade for him Friday, you bring him in Saturday, not 4 days later. So all of that being said, I think everybody's now on Max Crosby's side. All right, Straight ahead, how would you build the perfect NBA player if you could take certain traits from all the greats? Last takes after